And welcome. You are listening to and perhaps even watching the Financial Survival Network, and I'm Kerry Lutz. Well, as if you didn't have enough to worry about pandemics, businesses going bust left and right, and all of these other awful things going on. I'll bet you didn't think about this one: election security, computer security, the ability of hackers to disrupt the election, the presidential election. Well, they don't have to shut down every state. They just got to shut down a few of them. Maybe they're going to use ransomware. You're going to hear more about this from noted computer security expert, identity theft expert. I'm talking about Robert Siciliano, and you can find him over at saferme.com. That's SAFR.me. And Robert, it's great to have you back on the show. So you raised an issue when we were talking just before the call of the possibility that hackers can get into the state computer systems, install ransomware, and then I guess they can just name their price, and we won't know any election results because they're all going to be encrypted and locked away. Is that, how real is that?
Yeah, so obviously we're not voting online, right? But a lot of that data is stored to a degree on computers that may or may not be connected to the internet, and those computers that store that information that may send or receive that data in some way. If that data is held for ransom, if there's malware on that machine, and in any way, shape, or form, there's ransomware that restricts the ability for that municipality, that district, that state to access that information, and there is an unclear tally on election day or the days afterwards, that will cast doubt into the election results. Any cybersecurity expert that's paying any attention at all worth their salt that's keeping them up right now. And we know that the last election in some places was won by less than a point. So due to the fact that it very well is going to end up a very tight results, any misinformation, disinformation, any hacking that occurs to restrict those results for a day or two or three, based on the level of chaos that we've experienced in the past months with this election, it could send the results dizzying and people freaking out left and right.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we're already looking that there's a good possibility of post-election civil unrest. Every city, every major police department, minor police department in the country is preparing for it. I mean, I heard on Rodeo Drive, they're shutting it off the day of the election. They're putting up a wood paneling all over the windows there. The point being that they're expecting chaos as it is. So chaos generated from not knowing the outcome of the election relatively quickly just could be the final nail in the coffin here.
Yeah, it's sad that we've come to this point, that there's so much division and utter, confusion as to the direction of our nation. And part of that is as a result of, both China and Russia interfering with our 2016 election. And they have been engaging in those same processes, through the midterms and in other countries. They test their penetration testing skills. They test their ability to hack in countries like overseas in Russia and Europe and so forth, and then they use those same tools here in the U.S. And they've been successful with their, again, misinformation and disinformation campaigns. But to actually hold that data hostage, hold it for ransom, has not been successfully done in the electoral process yet. But there's a lot of buzz that could happen November 2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
Okay, so Homeland Security, I guess, is the one that's charged with protecting the country against these types of threats. What have they done to prepare for this scenario?
Yeah, so there is certainly, I can't speak directly to that. Obviously, they're not going to tell us what is actually happening there. I know that Microsoft has worked, public-private, working together with the DHS and others. And Microsoft has actually shut down a network that was like what's called a botnet, which is a robot network of computers specifically designed for hacking. Those are computers that actually sit in our homes and offices that all share a common virus. And that virus is controlled by hackers generally abroad that are able to manipulate those machines in such a way that they can send out viruses, they can store information. There's a number of things they can do. And the DHS and Microsoft work together to shut down a botnet over the past few months. And that is a step in the right direction. However, when it comes to cybersecurity and all these various vulnerabilities that we all face collectively, it's like a game of whack-a-mole. You knock one down and a bunch more pop up. So we are not out of the woods with this yet.
Okay. And the one thing to know about elections is generally all the hardware and all the systems in place to do the vote counting and to transmit the results, generally the Secretary of State's office or wherever it goes to several places. It's so many different systems because they're constantly upgrading them, and some of them are old, some of them and they just haven't bothered to upgrade. They don't have the money or they just don't have the expertise. So you got like literally, Robert, thousands of different systems that kind of compose this ragtag network of election reporting, and it's worked okay in the past, but it's been less than perfect. So a little bit of malicious interference really could bring down a number of these counties.
Yeah. And so our system and how it functions in all the various municipalities and how they basically funnel everything to the Secretary of State, and ultimately the tally is released to the feds and so forth. The All that mapping of how that information flows, it's not too difficult to figure out, and it's documented. And so when you have countries like Russia and China looking for those various bottlenecks and where that information is funneled to, and for them to attack at where those bottlenecks occur in some way to eliminate that flow of information or to lock it down, ransomware, hold it for ransom, that'll immediately send the results tail spinning, and that could get messy pretty quickly. And then if depending on what side you're on, where the results may or may not be favored, once the red flags are raised, it'll throw those results into chaos, and you'll see a lot of people freaking out.
Yeah, well, I remember, I think it was Obama's, maybe it was his second election. And in Ohio, at one point, Romney was ahead. Then the computers went down, they crashed in Ohio. And then when they came back up, Obama was leading. Now, I'm not saying there was any hanky panky or anything questionable happening, but when you see something like that, it kind of shakes your faith in the integrity of the system.
So's doubt. That's it. Plain and simple. Yeah. A lot of that going around right now.
Yeah, there's enough doubt to go around. We don't need any additional doubt.
Right.
Everybody is suspicious because it's complicated because you got tens of thousands of precincts, several thousand counties, and then the results get filtered up to the Secretary of State's office. And really, there's so many pressure points there. It's just surprising it hasn't happened so far.
Yeah. So if come November 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, should that happen, some of you heard it first on this show.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know what good it's going to do you, and I don't know. I guess we would have to have a do-over or something, and even then, that's like a really complicated thing. They spend billions of dollars on these elections every 4 years and every 2 years, and then to have to kind of go back to scratch. Might have to go back to paper ballots, Robert.
So, this is, might sound a little out there to people, but depending on what does happen, so my business is security and privacy, and the security aspect of thing it's all about planning, right? Proper planning. And as you know, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And leading up to November 3rd and afterwards, depending on what the results are and depending on what happens and if chaos does ensue, there could be certain pockets of the country where there are rioting, where there is strife, where roads are closed down, where electricity could potentially be shut off. Like there's a number of things that could occur. Militia could be, militia could, show its ugly head in certain parts of the country, and there might be martial law. Like, I'm not trying to incite people. I'm trying to get people to think, to prepare. And with COVID and there being limitations, I mean, you can't walk into a grocery store or Costco for that matter, and there not be things that aren't on the shelf that you might want or need. I mean, why don't we have paper towels, stuff like that, right? So all that being said, I think that people should kind of prepare, just because you should prepare anyways, for there being a lack of gasoline, a lack of food, a lack of what you might need, to sustain yourself for a day, a week, a month at a time. So I've always been, somewhat of a prepper, not like crazy, but enough that I've got enough food and water to last me 3 to 6 months. And while that might seem extreme to a lot of people, our money, as you know, it is just, X's and ones and whatever that are digitized. So you do need to prepare, just in case something was to happen. I know that in my freezer, which, wouldn't do me so good if there's no electricity, but I also have a backup generator, and that backup generator is via propane and gasoline. And I have stores of both. But I have enough food in my fridge and freezer and dry goods to last me for quite some time. And it's not a bad idea to do that now and in the future, because, this whole thing, this electrical grid is like 100 plus years old. It's only 100 and something, maybe 15, 20 years old. That's it. We rely on gasoline and electricity for all of our sustainability. And that is not and if you are not prepared for 2 weeks, never mind, a month to 3, that could be a significant problem for you.
Yeah, I've heard rumors of EMP attacks being planned and such. I mean, who knows? Once countries go down that road, then then it's all out total warfare, and really there's no pulling back from it. But the idea of having having some currency in your home, having enough money so you can buy stuff, because
small bills too, small bills. Yep.
Yeah, credit card might not work.
Right.
Your ATM card might not work. The idea of having water, can't live without water. At least a few gallons per person, or the ability to get it if you need it. Having a water filter, things like that, and having some emergency preparedness food. We've been big advocates of that for many, many years. I had a 6-month supply, but somebody stole a couple of them. So now I've only got a 4-month supply, Robert. And not to mention means of defending yourself if it really goes Mad Max. And we just don't know. My feeling is maybe we'll escape it this time, but the heck knows. I mean, we're really living in these insane, uncertain times, and things that you never believed possible a short time ago are happening. So mass civil unrest and the idea of the power grid going down and all this, if the power grid goes down, the cell phones only work for 72 hours and then they're off.
Yep.
Because the battery backup on the towers is done.
Right. Tremendous amount of volatility. I've been saying for quite some time now that the only thing that is certain is uncertainty. And as long as you look at where we are in that regard, then you gear your mindset towards proper planning. And that's not, living paranoid or having an uneasy feeling. It's just having a mindset that it's like putting a seatbelt on. Like, there's a chance that something can happen. Therefore, you're proactively putting that seatbelt on because you don't want to put yourself, your family at risk, or anybody else on the road should, there be a dare that jumps out in the middle of the road and you start swerving and you lose control of the vehicle, where that seatbelt keeps you in place. Planning in this regard is just that. It's just, being smart about it, not being paranoid about it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Uh, just view it as an insurance policy.
Yeah.
Like, hey, your house hasn't burned down ever, hasn't been broken into, but that doesn't mean that you should just get rid of your insurance and assume that that's going to be the case going forward. No matter what happens, you still
Right.
pay for your your homeowner's insurance, your renter's insurance, whatever it might be.
Yep.
Same with auto insurance. There's an industry built up around the world for 600 years, insuring people against risks that are out there that are probably unlikely, but likely enough that you need to insure against them. And wow, it's I was put out a article just a couple of days, Robert, just saying, warning people, get ready for civil unrest post election, regardless who gets elected. I don't think it matters. I think it's baked into the cake. But I was never thinking of in terms that the election itself could be sabotaged, and that could lead to that really would have to lead to martial law and some type of suspension of rights. We already saw that happen during the pandemic, where rights were just wholesale suspended until it's over, which looking more and more like it's, as far as the government's concerned, it'll never be over.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So is there a list of things that you've put together to prepare for the
So, yeah,
likelihood?
for the past 10 years, I have been accumulating different items that, should things go south. And a lot of that, of course, is dry goods. You can buy, 5-gallon buckets of dry goods that you just add water to. Probably every time I go to Costco, you can buy 6 1-gallon containers of water. For me, it's Poland Springs is what Costco carries. And those 6 1-gallon containers of water are in a nice heavy duty cardboard box. It's like $4. And so I'll buy one of those or 2 of those every single time I go to Costco. And I usually cycle out the older ones. So at any given point in time, I've got between 60 and 80 gallons of water just sitting on in my basement floor. And again, I cycle those out. And that is a good enough amount of water to keep me going for 2 to 3 months, should we need it. And hopefully we never need it. And then I have, if you go to, Costco or Home Depot for that matter, or Lowe's, those black bins, those 50-gallon totes, I think they might be, with the yellow covers on them. Those are like $8-10. I generally have 4 to 6 of those filled at all times with all kinds of gear should I need it, which is a bunch of different stoves with various forms of fuel to keep them going, various forms of medication, Benadryl, and other, EpiPens and such that we pick up along the lines, even stuff that expires. I still keep that stuff because it's good enough, should you need it. And then, various first aid kits, even things like wire coat hangers. Like you don't know what you might need in different forms of twine and rope. I always have, I have at least 1 or 2 machetes and hatchets, and then saws for cutting wood that all fit into these bins. And then various forms of clothing, blankets and sweatshirts and pants and socks and underwear, rain jackets. I mean, you name it, bug spray, and various things for sleeping, whether they are, double sleeping bags, single sleeping bags, hammocks and cots, all stuff that I could throw in the back of an SUV, filling it to the top. The dog end up, being in the back seat with the kids, and dog food too. I have dog food. So enough stuff to if I had to get in the road, and go elsewhere for whatever reason, because I am in the city and that's where a lot of the chaos would occur first. If I had to go into the countryside, even to the suburbs or further, I'd have the ability to get away from where I'm at right now. And I, every time I go by the gas station, if I have a half a tank of gas, I fill it right up, always fill it right up. And I always have at least 10 to 20 gallons of gasoline stored outside. I always have at least 3 to 6 20-gallon cans of propane because my my generator is a propane gasoline generator. And I also have a device that I can hook it up to one of those propane heaters inside my house. So it's a propane heater that'll actually work inside the house, and it says that it won't kill us, that it won't give off the carbon monoxide in such a way that would, sap up the oxygen. So, I don't entirely trust that. I'd certainly crack a window wherever that thing ended up, but it is designed to be utilized inside the home. You can see it on Amazon. Because I'm in a cold climate. I'm in the Northeast, and should my heat go down in the middle of January, February, and you have multiple 0 degrees in a row, I've got backup, because that is one of my greatest fears. And it's not just that device. I also have a backup wood burning stove, which isn't actually hooked up, but I have the ability to hook it up should I need to, and I have backup wood. Cold, to me, is one of the biggest fears that I have should things go down for an extended period of time.
Well, I think those are all very sound measures to take. It all depends upon your circumstances, how much you're going to do. But certainly, at a minimum, have at least several days worth of water and food. Have the currency there. Have these items, a bug out bag. In California with earthquakes, people have been told to keep bug out bags for decades now. But when you don't have earthquakes for quite a while, get complacent. So I guess the lesson here is don't be complacent. Prepare now while you can still get the stuff. Costco is a great, or other warehouse stores, great source of these materials that you could possibly need, as well as bulk food and such.
Yeah.
Well, Robert, I hope it doesn't come down to it. But if it does, it sounds like you'll be ready. Just tell us again where we find you and where we can read your work.
I'm online a couple of different places. Safer.me, which is spelled SAFR, like Uber, SAFR.me, safer.me, and protectnowllc.com. Again, that's protectnowllc.com. I offer, security awareness training, and we have e-learning. We have a certification program called CSI Protection, which is Cyber Social Identity and Personal Protection.
All right, excellent. Hey, any questions or comments for Robert, myself? What are you doing to prepare? I'd like to hear what you're doing. Send us an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. Go to our website, financialsurvivalnetwork.com. We're into survival, just like Robert, and sign up for a free newsletter. We'll make sure we'll put together a list of must-have items. Robert, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for coming on.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity.